For the 76th time, it'll be Duke in Virginia this weekend inside Wallace Wade Stadium as Littles return home with a lot on the line. Virginia, of course, is number 19 in the most recent college football playoff, but they do not control their own destiny in terms of getting to Charlotte. Two teams in the ACC do. Georgia Tech and the Blue Devils win out, and they will play for an ACC title in the first weekend in December. So with that as the backdrop, we welcome you inside Blue Devil Tower. I'm David Shumate alongside Dave Harding. And Dave, there's so many layers to this game, and I'm talking about ACC race, and obviously that's important what the Blue Devils have in front of them these last three. But I know you well enough to know old school Coastal Division opponents. This is a rivalry game too.
100%. When I was playing, I disliked Virginia more than the team down the road. And we saw each other every single year. There's a lot of emotions between both groups. Similar style of play. It's both, programs that think very highly of what they do, rightfully so. This one always got a little bit chippy. So more than what you're talking about in the sense of the ACC title race, this one's important to win from a program standpoint and just asserting your dominance over the state of Virginia and obviously helping keep that pecking order in place where Duke likes to think that they're just a little bit better than the Hoos.
Of course, the last time the Blue Devils played for an ACC title was back in 2013. You were a part of that team. The stretch run that you guys had to punch your ticket to play for an ACC title, what these guys have in front of them. We said they control their own destiny with 3 games to go. Obviously, disappointment over the weekend against Connecticut. But I imagine knowing that it's all in their hands really refocuses the work this week.
It absolutely does. It's definitely a strange setup, the way this season's been. We've talked about the bye weeks, bookending the Georgia Tech game in October, not having a ton of action, and then the way that the UConn game set up with it being a non-conference game late in the season, and to lose on the road knocks you back significantly. You never want to lose, but the way Duke lost to and the fact that they were in the game, they had a chance with that final drive to go down there and at least take it to overtime, unable to do so. So an emotionally deflating outcome, and to turn right back around with so much on the line. Like as much as that game hurt, it had no bearing on your biggest goal in terms of winning the conference. So now you have to turn around, learn from that game, and use whatever lessons that you were able to glean from that experience to help you out with this final 3-game series. Now, there should be no lack of emotion, no lack of intensity, not just because they're conference games, but as we said, some rivalry games. You've got Virginia and the age-old rivalry that exists there, the North Carolinas, say no more, and then to finish off the in-state series with Wake Forest at home. So a lot is riding on this, and it comes down to making sure that you execute at the best and highest level that you possibly can. We'll get into some dynamics and some intricacies there, but Duke has been impacted, especially on defense, with injuries, young players being forced into the mix. It's time to step up. If you're one of those young players, play big-time football because, like you said, your destiny is completely in your control.
All right, let's dive into some numbers when you look at these two teams. Obviously, both can really score at 35 points a game for the Blue Devils. You look at Virginia averaging 33 points a game. They're very good running the football, better than 184 yards per game. Third in the ACC, but Dave, as you kind of look over this, what jumps off the page?
Yeah, the running game is going to be huge in this game. You talk about how good they are with Jamari Taylor at rushing the football. Defensively, pretty stout, just giving up 113 yards on average against the run. The Blue Devils have found a little bit of a run game with the likes of Nate Shepard. Obviously, we've talked a lot about Anderson Castle, Jacquez Moore in the mix there. The offensive line's playing well, and they were able to run the ball really well against UConn on Saturday, just not as much as they would have liked and as consistently as they would like. The big challenge then comes into the rush defense, and there have been scenarios this season where the Blue Devils have given up big gains on the ground, mobile quarterbacks, which is going to be a part of the discussion as well. Virginia definitely has that, whether it's their typical starter or the backup. So the way the ground game comes together and looking at these statistics, I think is going to be the big decision maker in this close ACC race, which team comes away with the advantage.
Yeah, as he's talking about the quarterback situation, Virginia's coming off their first ACC loss of the season against Wake Forest. It's a game that saw Chandler Morris, their starting quarterback, Chandler Morris, leave with an upper body injury. Been a question mark all week long. We visited with Manny Diaz earlier this week on his radio show. The Blue Devils are preparing like he's going to play, and that's just out of sign of respect for how tough that kid is. They think that he'll be back, but he's been able to throw the football efficiently, but as you said, run the football as well. Better than 200 yards rushing for a quarterback with sacks mixed in. That's a pretty big number, and 4 rushing scores. If he can't go, it'll be Daniel Kalen. Limited sample size for him, but he's run the ball a little bit as well. 10 carries for 53 yards. So the quarterback run game is going to be a part of this for Virginia. It'll be interesting to see how much, if it is Chandler Morris that plays coming off that upper body injury, he's able to run the football, the chess match within the chess match as we look throughout the week. But one thing I did want to point out that to me will be interesting to watch, conversion downs. Not rocket science to say they're going to be important, but you look at what the Blue Devils have done. They've been really good converting on third down and on fourth down the last couple of weeks. Virginia's the best in the ACC, only giving up 29% of the time, and you look how efficient they are on third down. Now, the Blue Devils give up conversions 41% of the time, but if you look at these last 2 games, that third down defense has been getting better. Combined Clemson and Connecticut, I know they got some conversions on fourth down, but only 6 of 22 on third down. So amidst some of the struggles defensively, they have been good on third down, and it feels like time of possession, who can stay on the field, stay ahead of the chains, as you've taught me over the years, could be a big part of the story on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think an important part of emphasis for the Duke defense in particular in this game is forcing those third down situations to be third down and long. And we'll talk about my players to watch in a little bit, but if you can apply a little bit more pressure in the passing game in an obvious passing situation and take away the threat of the having to defend the run and the pass if it's a third and short or third and medium, as well as the fourth down option. I mean, that is, and you referenced it, has been a challenge in the Duke defense getting off the field. Maybe they execute well on third down, but the opposing team has an opportunity on a fourth and short to go for it, and they have been able to stay on. And another piece to all of that, I mean, we saw a fake punt last Saturday against UConn essentially acts as a turnover. In a game where it feels like the physicality, the ability to run, how you are on third down defense, and the time of possession piece is going to be so important, turnovers become even more of an emphasis. And when Duke has been winning games, they've been taking care of the football and taking the ball away. And in the losses, it's a pretty easy trend to see. They've turned the ball over, and the defense has not been able to force those turnovers. And so, again, that goes back to what you're saying in terms of maximizing the opportunities that you have with the ball and the defense getting off the field.
It is interesting when you look at this Virginia team, as you said, allowing 21 points per game. Des Kitchings, the defensive coordinator, in many respects, they've rebuilt this defense through the transfer portal in the offseason, but the Blue Devils haven't played them since 2023, and, I'm getting ready to look for this game, and there's those 2 linebackers still sitting there. Cam Robinson and James Jackson have been there for a very long time. I say that because it's no secret that they've been good stopping the run when you have linebackers with that much experience, only giving 113 yards per game. But teams that have played Duke and obviously this prolific passing attack have been trying to force them to run the football. It'll be interesting to see what Virginia does, because taking away the run is their bread and butter, but then you open yourself up to Darian Mensah and everything that can come over the top.
Yeah, I think it's a big question, too, of does Virginia need to bring extra hats down along the line of scrimmage to take away the run, or can they do that with their base defensive look? And a lot of the passing game for Duke is predicated on the RPO. So that run portion of the offense is incredibly important. Now, can Duke execute in a 2-minute situation where you kind of abandon the run? Yes. Much more difficult, though. So Blue Devils are at their best when they're balanced and have a semblance of a running game that's going to be very important to establish on Saturday.
And obviously very capable in the run game. Nate Shepard going for 100 yards over the weekend in East Hartford. All right, let's get to our players to watch. And
you stole mine,
shocker.
Man. This guy.
I'm going to go with the Swiss Army knife. He's become a weapon in the passing game over the middle, and I do think, to your point, as good as Virginia's been defensively, they might try to take away a lot of the traditional stuff, and number 85 might find some space. But I also think that Duke needs to run the football this weekend, and the physicality they played with at the line of scrimmage at Connecticut. I know it wasn't the result that they were looking for, but we're up top, we can see it. They controlled the line of scrimmage for most of that game. And if they can do that in these last 3 ACC games, I think they've got a real shot to control the clock, control their destiny, and get to Charlotte. And 85 has a hand in everything they are doing. I feel like he could be in for a big day.
I mean, there are several people in the running for this, but if I was going to have to give out an MVP award for Duke football at this point in the season, it would go to 85. Jeremiah Hazley has, as you've said, emerged as a really consistent threat in the passing game, sure-handed, whether it's catching touchdowns or third downs, right up the field, the yards after the catch. But more than anything, and maybe this is the former offensive lineman in me, like to watch what he does. And Landon King's in the mix there, Tony Boggs. There are several other tight ends, and it's a group with a great mindset and mentality. They're very physical, but to watch what, in particular, Jeremiah Hazley does in the run game is really remarkable. And to see a tight end that can do both at that high level is a thing of beauty. If you want to know where the ball is going, typically it's safe to follow 85. And maybe Duke uses him as a decoy. We'll see at some point because I think defenses are catching on. My big thing for this game to watch is the play of the two defensive ends, the starting defensive ends for the Blue Devils, VJ Anthony and Wes Williams. Everybody knows who they are. There's been a lot of talk about the talent that they have, the leadership that they bring to this team. But at the top of the podcast, I mentioned the injuries, and there's no really secret about it. The Duke defense has been struggling to get off the field at times this year. Look back to last week, easy to put your attention on the turnovers and some of the miscues on offense to say why the Blue Devils weren't able to get a win over a very talented UConn team. But I think the defense carries a big part of that responsibility. They struggled to slow down the Huskies, and the pass rush wasn't as much of a threat. It wasn't as dominant as we've come to expect out of this group. And a big part for that, too, is because, and a big reason why it's important to have that, when you have young players in the secondary, that inexperience in the secondary, the linebackers, due to injury, have been somewhat of a revolving door. There's even more of a need for these guys up front to go up and create a little more havoc, to speed up the passing game, to get a quarterback, regardless of who it is this weekend for the Who's, a little more uncomfortable. And you've got to lean on your leaders, some of the better players in the conference at rushing the passer, but also being stout against the run. So if those two guys can have a big game, I think Duke's defense has a good day.
And making sure Chandler Morris can feel them and know that they're around him. All right, as we start to wrap this up, looking forward to the game this weekend. You can tell we're jacked. Number 19, Virginia, and of course the Blue Devils still controlling their own destiny in the ACC race. Don't hit me now. Not get aggressive here.
I'm jacked up.
Yeah, I'm going to get sentimental on you.
Okay.
So for our extra topic this week, this group here, I know we're not to senior day yet, but this game did get me thinking. When they were first getting started, back in 2022. Some of them the year before, redshirt years. It's kind of crazy this time, but stay with me. That was obviously a massive game at home against Virginia, and they won it 38-17. Laid down a marker, hadn't won an ACC game in a while, hadn't won an ACC game at home even longer than that, and now you got a full circle moment 4 years later, thinking about everything they've done over the years, all the bowl wins, all the massive wins at home. Do you think those guys start to reflect a little bit? I mean, we're going to get to senior day in a few weeks, but in some respects, yeah, we're locked in. The team is trying to go win an ACC title. But also, I feel like we can take a step back and look at, they've done a lot of incredible stuff the last 4 years.
I think that's a good point. I mean, to put it in more context, I don't have the numbers on me right here, but like Bronco Mendenhall at Virginia pretty much owned Duke for at least the later portion of his tenure there. And this group, that senior class, was able to change things and to turn things around. I don't know how long the streak was, but it was an extended streak that the Who's had beaten the Blue Devils. And to have been able to turn things around and for it to have resulted in the momentous games, wins, streaks since then. I mean, think about all the boxes that Duke has checked off.
First win over Florida State. First win at Clemson since 1980. I mean, we could
first
go
time
on down.
hosting College Game Day. I mean,
still a chance this year to run the table away from home in ACC play if they went over in Chapel Hill. So I mean,
a lot of firsts.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do believe we're a few weeks removed, like you said, from the end of the regular season. But once you get into November, fans can feel it, right? The weather changes. It feels like football. You get a little more sentimental maybe because it's around the holiday season. A player feels that too. You can feel the finality of the season. And when you mix that with the weight of what Duke has still left to go in their schedule and the opportunity that presents, and a chance to go do something that hasn't happened to Duke in a very long time in terms of playing in an ACC championship game, but potentially winning an ACC championship. Sure, this game is an opportunity for reflection, but more than anything, it's an opportunity to kind of check yourself and to say, this means a lot. And I'm going to dig as deep as I can from an effort perspective to go out there, lay it all on the line, because what we've done in the past is in the past. It's all worked in getting us to this point, so let's go make the most of this opportunity.
And for my money, what a setting it's going to be on Saturday afternoon. I know some people talk about the time change and stuff like that. From a college football standpoint, there's nothing better than a November kickoff at 3:30. You kind of get two for the price of one. Bright sunshine. It's supposed to be in the 70s on Saturday afternoon. Then you go grab a bite to eat at halftime, come back, and you basically got a night game to get everything going. It should be a fun afternoon between Duke and Virginia coming up on Saturday. 3:30 is the kick. ESPN2 will have the television coverage, and we'll have you covered on the radio beginning at 2 o'clock. I promise it won't be sentimental Harding by the time we get to Saturday.
Get to the game. Bring your earphones or whatever. Listen to us, but there is no excuse. This is a great setting, great game. Come on out and buy me a hot dog while you're at it.
See you guys on Saturday.